Okay, and so let's take a look at your activity 11. That will be your test for your specific carbohydrates. Okay, and so that will be your test for your specific carbohydrates. And so for your test under your specific carbohydrates, actually it uses your condensation reactions. And so your what we call this for this, and so generally your carbohydrates are actually dehydrated into small saccharide, and so they are dehydrated into your small saccharide units using a dehydrating agent. And then after that, and so the products will what they call this, the products will combine or will condense with your reagent. And so reagent that are actually present in your molish, in your bials, and your Silivanov tests that are actually done in this activity. Okay, and so let's take a look at these tests. Okay, and so let's take a look at your Siliwanov's test, okay? And so your Siliwanov's test, and so it uses your Siliwanov's reagent. And so your Siliwanov's reagent here, and so it is a combination of your resorcinol and your hydrochloric acid, okay? And so this is a combination of your resorcinol and hydrochloric acid. Okay, and so your hydrochloric acid here will dehydrate your ketose sugar to form hydroxymethyl furfural. Okay, and so your ketose sugar to form hydroxymethyl furfural. Okay, your ketose here, and so these are sugars that contain your ketone as a functional group. And so your ketone as a functional group. Okay, and so your after being dehydrated, and so your hydroxymethyl furfural will condense with your resorcinol to produce a cherry red complex. And so it will condense with your resorcinol to produce a cherry red complex. Okay, and so again, for that, in your Siliwanov's test, and so you have here your action of your resorcinol and HCl. And so your your hydrochloric acid will dehydrate and to produce your hydroxymethyl furfural, and then your resorcinol will condense with your hydroxymethyl furfural to produce a cherry red color. Okay, and so this one is specific for your ketose sugars like your fructose and your ribulose. Okay, and so your ketose sugars like your fructose and your ribulose will give a cherry red color for this, and so a positive result for your Siliwanov's test. Okay, and so also accordingly your sucrose will also give a positive result for this one, and so that is for your Siliwanov. Okay, and so your hydrochloric acid, it will dehydrate, and then your dehydrate your sugar and your resorcinol, and so it serves as an indicator, or it is responsible for giving the color of your test result. Okay, and so that is for your Siliwanov's test, a specific test for your ketose sugar, and so those sugars that contain your ketone as the functional group. Okay, and so let's take a look at your oxidation reaction of your sugars. Okay, and so your sugars can undergo oxidation reaction except for your sucrose accordingly. And so your disaccharides and your monosaccharides, especially those sugars that contain aldoses, are readily oxidized, and so they are oxidized to form your sugar acids. Okay, and so accordingly your oxidation of your sugars begin with your aldehyde group. Ayan, so the aldehyde group present in your sugar, and then followed by your primary alcohols, and lastly by your secondary alcohol in your sugar. Okay, and so for this, and so upon oxidation of your aldehyde group, it forms aldonic acid. And so if primary alcohol is oxidized, then it forms your uronic acid. Okay, and so if both aldehyde and primary alcohols are oxidized, and so it will yield your aldaric acid. Okay, and so it will yield your aldaric acid. For this, and so your lactose and your galactose, they can be oxidized. Okay, and so let's take a look at your mucic acid test. And so your mucic acid, and so it uses your concentrated nitric acid. Okay, and so for this, and so again, and so oxidation, then there is your music in your mucic acid test, and so your nitric acid will oxidize your monosaccharide to form your mucic acid. And so your mucic acid here is an isomer of saccharinic acid. Okay, and so it's an isomer of your saccharinic acid. And this one, your mucic acid is insoluble and forms characteristic sandy crystals which serve to identify your galactose and lactose in a solution. Okay, and so your lactose in your galactose will form an insoluble mucic acid crystals. They are actually sandy crystalline precipitates accordingly. And so that is for your mucic acid. Again, and so it uses your nitric acid and then oxidizes your monosaccharide to produce your mucic acid. Okay? And so your mucic acid here, and so it's not sensitive. Accordingly, it requires more of your uh, galactose and lactose in a solution to produce an amount of your mucic acid crystals. Okay, and so also it requires a longer standing cooling time for this, no? And so accordingly, and so right after removal from heat and after cooling, and so the mucic acid are not readily precipitated. And so for some, and so it requires overnight for your mucic acid to be appreciated. Okay, and so this one, your mucic acid test can be used to determine your ayan, so your mucic acid can be used to determine your glucose and your galactose. And so they are used to differentiate your glucose and your galactose. Your glucose can though your glucose can produce though your glucose can produce a mucic acid crystals, but then they are soluble to your solvent. And so they are soluble to your solvent. And so the lactose in the mucic acid produced by your lactose and galactose are insoluble to your solvent. Okay, and so that is one thing to your mucic acid test is one thing to differentiate your your glucose and your galactose. And another one accordingly is the use of your pyrocatechol solution in your phosphoric acid solution. Okay, and so you heat the mixture of your pyrocatechol and pyrocatechol in phosphoric acid solution, and of course the sugar, heat in a boiling water bath for 15 minutes, and then you let it cool and then observe for the color produced. And so for your galactose, accordingly, it will produce a red color while your glucose will produce a purple color. Okay, and so your glucose will produce a purple color for your in your pyrocatechol in phosphoric acid solution, and your galactose will produce a red color. Okay, and so that is for your mucic acid test. Bial's test. Ayan, so your Bial's test or your Bial arsenol test. Okay, and so you have here, it uses the reagents used. You have your hydrochloric acid, your arsenol, and trace of ferric chloride. Okay, and so for this, and so your hydrochloric acid dehydrates your sugars to form furfural derivatives. And so your hydrochloric acid dehydrates sugars to form furfural derivatives. Okay, and so these furfural derivatives will condense and so will complex with your arsenol to produce a green precipitate. And so it will condense your furfural derivatives will produce a green precipitate. Again, and so in your HCl, you will dehydrate your what you call this, your sugar into your furfural derivatives. And so what type of sugar will produce your furfural? And so you have your pentoses, and then your hydroxymethyl furfural, they are from your hexose sugars. And so for this one, and so your Bial's test will give a positive result of green precipitate. Okay, and so what sugars will give a positive result for this? You have your pentose sugars like your xylose, your ribose, your deoxyribose, and your arabinose. Okay. And so again, this one is a test for your pentose. And so your hexoses, accordingly, they will test negative for this one. They will not produce a green precipitate. And so they will have a brown precipitate for this test. Okay, and so you have here, and so how are you going to prepare this one? Of course, your bial orsinol. Of course, you dissolve orsinol in your hydrochloric acid and add ferric chloride solution. Okay, and so that is for your bials test again. And so this one is a test for your pentoses. And so your hexose, like your fructose, your glucose, will give a negative result for this one. And so let's take a look at your monosaccharide. And so your monosaccharide here, and so this one is, these are actually your simple sugars containing one saccharide group. Okay, and so they cannot be further hydrolyzed. And so examples of this, again, you have your glucose, your fructose, your galactose, and so those items. Okay, and so let's take a look at your structure of your monosaccharides. Okay, and so the carbon skeleton is unbranched, and so the carbon skeleton of your sugar is of your monosaccharide is unbranched, and so all the carbon except one has a hydroxyl group. Okay, and so all the carbon except one has a hydroxyl group. Okay, and so you have OH group attached to it, and then you have one has a carbonyl oxygen. One carbon has a carbonyl oxygen. Okay, and so this carbonyl oxygen may be in the terminal carbon, giving rise to your aldehyde. And so if the carbonyl oxygen is located at the terminal part of your sugar of your monosaccharide, then that is your, it will give rise to your aldehyde. But then, and so if the carbonyl oxygen is located at the center or centrally located, then it will give rise to your ketone. And so giving you your aldose and your ketose sugar. Okay, and so that is for your monosaccharide. And then you have your disaccharide, and so that is a result of a combination of two molecules of monosaccharide linked via your glycosidic bonds. And so linked via glycosidic bond. For this, and so in your disaccharide, and so your disaccharide may still possess your potential aldehyde group, and thus they can retain the properties referable to your to this group. Okay, and so they can retain the properties referable to your aldehyde or your ketose group. Okay, and so that is for your monosaccharide and your disaccharide.